try to jump in.
And I think that's where we are now. We've actually stood back for a while, and it's getting harder for us to hire people because we can't meet their expectations, and then we cannot bring them in over people who've been here for a while in the same position, so it makes creativity for recruiting.
While we pull back, and I may be wrong, but I believe we pulled back in the recession. That's where it all started.
Yes, 2008.
All right, I'm wondering how we compare, as Lynn was talking, and I don't mean particular in each category, but I feel like that all cities in our size especially is basically they have done the same thing in order to get the bottom line on the budget.
Yeah.
I cannot believe that all these other cities around us, with the situation that we had since 2008, 2007, or 8, with the budget problem, that they all not about in the same boat.
Yeah, but what they did that we didn't do is, from just looking just off the top, and we can always do a survey with them, is that they gave the minimum that they could give. They didn't just stop.
And we
So
stopped.
if they were giving 3%, they went to 1%. And the only time I remember everybody stopping was when we were really in a crunch of the economy being really bad. But right now, that's who's recruiting. They're recruiting our people because they can offer them a higher salary. But they didn't stop totally. We can do some research on that.
Well, Deborah's got a later slide that's going to get into a tool that we'll use will evaluate, whether it's what degree it's across the board or by position.
What did Whiteville do?
Let's see, I arrived in Whiteville in 2009, and I want to say 1 or 2 budget cycles before then, they did somewhat what you outlined. They did nothing or next to nothing. I arrived and I reintroduced basically what amounts to pay for performance, 0 to 4%. If you peaked out performance.
And you did that every year you was there?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, but have we lost employees to other municipalities? Yeah. More competitive jobs.
To every department, pretty much. And I'll get into that. That's my next slide. Okay, so in order to retain our employees, we must create and maintain a workplace that attracts, nourishes good employees. And I know that most of our employees have really been very dedicated. They didn't really start leaving even when the economy was bad. That's when they really stuck it out with us, maybe because they couldn't go anywhere else. But our employees, when it got bad, they really stuck with us thinking things would change. So when you hear people leaving sometimes now, it's like, well, I did the best I could, and now, I need to go do what I can do for my family. So, and that's why you can almost tell it's been a little while. So we just need to make sure that these components, employees who have relationships with an organization, they tend to stay. We have probably some of the best employees that anybody could ask for, and so we do really want to retain them. Employee support involves giving employees the total to help them equip themselves to do the job. They also have to have some type of buy-in to everything. We're going to give them equipment to do the job, but their minds have to be there too, and they have to be dedicated to trying to do the job, because we're serving all these citizens and trying to do programs out here, so we want our citizens to be happy. We also want our employees to be happy at the same time. Good employees want to develop new knowledge and skills and to improve their value in the marketplace and enhance their own self-esteem. Employees' compensation pay is essential to employees for their time. Totally, it is important for us to use the pay for performance in every position. Every position is important. We made certain decisions, but we have to make sure that we look at every one of our positions so that employees are recognized. To retain employees, the compensation plan needs to incorporate this trend. Performance merits pay, and pay for performance comes in various sizes. The basic 2 things in performance is that you want to involve 2 basic activities. Defining the job. Our jobs have to be changed really a lot now. But we want someone who can actually look at all of our jobs to make sure people aren't doing more than they should be doing. Or if the jobs change, we try to do that on a manual basis since we've had the survey. Departments will say, well, this job changed, and we'll get together and try to look at the market and see what they're paying. So we've been doing that on a manual basis, but there might be some jobs that we really can't get to. So this is going to be important that we look at our jobs, and also is checking the performance against those jobs. So those are the two key performance issues that we have to look at when we're talking about our merit pay program. And looking at peer competitors, well, I hear a lot about these organizations, and Union Power, Duke Power, and Pike Corporation normally recruit many of our employees from the Energy Services Group. Don has a hard time trying to keep his employees because they're trying to go over there. And the interesting thing is private industry, so sometimes they can give a lots of perks that we can't give. But when I looked at some of the data that I was looking at, it looked like municipalities were really consistent for years, being able to reward employees, and then when that fall came, we stayed there. So now the private industries are being able to pull because we were considered more consistent. They were like, whistles and bells, and you can just bring people on, and whether it lasts, we have some employees wanting to come back too. So, but these are the companies that are actually chasing our employees. Union County and other municipalities recruit from all of our departments. Okay, so we have that every day that somebody's coming in, and we're a good training ground. So they're looking for our employees, and they're being successful at this point in time. But I think there's somewhere along the line that we can change that. Our performance-based merit program, Pay for Performance, the program is aimed to build the organizational environment by encouraging employees and managers to reach the goal and to pay the best employees. It is more than just a tool. It is a philosophy of the organization to reward the best performing employee and to remain competitive. It is not isolated from compensation or benefits, because when our benefits increased and then we didn't change our compensation, even if employees thought we had a good plan, they still had an issue because their pay was not keeping up with the benefits. So therefore we created another concern. So it sounds like the benefits was an issue, but it really was more, can I afford it? This will allow cities to provide a consistent work environment, more satisfied employees who bring innovative ideas and solutions. This cannot be based on exceptions, poor systems, or inconsistent systems. When this program becomes a household word, and it used to be, our employees can depend on it throughout the organization. What we don't want to do is have our employees not trust that we have their best interests, and I think a little bit of that might be going on because of the inconsistencies. The purpose of the performance-based merit program is to establish and maintain an equitable and flexible program that would encourage employees of the city of Monroe to strive for excellence. The city has such a program, and it has been found to be a little bit inconsistent at this time. I actually provided you a handout that goes over how our points, how it's calculated to get an increase, what's required. But in there was a guideline, and what it said was that the city's guideline indicates that the mayor and the city council will do the following. It will support and protect the integrity of the program, including making supportive statements to the public about our performance program, provide resources to support the program, and understanding of how the program works. It should look like this. I know you're looking for it. It's a handout that looks like this, and this actually covers everything that we expect from our managers, from the city manager, from the council on how this program works. If you've never seen it before, it's a good opportunity in your leisure time that if you read through it. Classification and compensation study. We put that on hold a couple different times. With the classification study, it will help us to rewrite current class job descriptions, It'll do a benefit analysis and a market survey to see where we really fall. So we can do small little surveys, but when they do the larger survey, they're doing surveys that with municipalities that are like size so that we know who's trying to recruit our people. Update salary schedule, review of internal equity issues, independent job analysis, estimated financial impact on what those options would be if we had to choose, and we've gone through that in 2008 when we had to choose what plan would best work for us. And to get started, we would use Springstead Consulting, which would cost us about $34,000, and they have some other expenses which are about $4,000. And once the city determines what plan best fits, then they would give us options and we can select from those. The study is needed to upgrade how we pay our employees. Springstead recommends that we conduct the study every 5 to 7 years. We did the last one January 28, 2008, and this upcoming budget period, it'll be 8 years since we did the study. So that's a long gap in between understanding how we compete with other municipalities or organizations. What does this matter? Other organizations will recruit our employees for their skills and their abilities. Employees are dedicated, but they like to experience growth. Salaries sometimes makes people determine what their wealth is. And so our performance-based merit program pay for performance is inconsistent. We should make it consistent. If compensation levels fall below the regional market, there will be difficulty in hiring, and we'll have increased turnover, and we're right there. We're right there where all that's happening. And looking back, the only average market I could find where they were moving, I found it through a Mercer Consulting, which was about 2.7% that companies were increasing as an average. The North Carolina pay in that study was $48,000, and the market was $50,000. So we were like under like 3%. So we're lagging behind in various areas. The city, just for a recap, the city in 2008, regular merits, which means that the employee can earn from 0 to 4% based on performance. That's what we had in 2008. 2011, the cost of living, which was a 3.9%, it was a lump sum, so therefore it did not change the employee's hourly earning. 2012, the merit was 46%. We used performances from 2008, we averaged them, which if you make a grade level 8 and you average it, you're still going to come out with the same thing. So we collapsed 3 performances together and allocated only 46%, which means that it was only half of what someone's true performance was being recognized for. So if there are any questions, that kind of concludes.
I have one, and it's a given that we haven't been given merit raises or other raises. Have there been other incentives not related to money that we incorporated to help keep our employees or help them make them feel appreciated?
Well, we have all kinds of programs. We have gifts when they get thank yous. We have gifts they can come pick up. We have a suggestion program when employees are working on a project that will be something that we can use for the city. They can make X number of dollars on that, and some of them are pretty high dollars. We have, as you know, the wellness part of it. We have all kinds of incentives for those, but there are all kinds of programs that we have. But at some point in time, people start looking at, can I keep up with the cost of living? And when we actually offer the one-time shots, it doesn't necessarily provide that security.
On these gifts, so do they not have to pay tax on
Yep.
gifts?
Mhm.
That's what I was thinking.
Yep.
Well, we do Christmas bonuses,
Yeah, we do.
and we should. I'm
Yeah,
not playing that down at all. Usually we try to give some extra days and holidays if we
Yeah,
can.
yeah, we do.
So we want to do what's right.
Yeah, and you do. There are lots of programs But you have to understand when people are struggling with the cost of living, even though we get the one-time
Yeah.
shots, it's probably already spent before they get it.
I understand.
So, and that's just where we are, because the city has always been really good to the employees. It's just that we got into the slump there where we don't want the performance, which is what it is, to be something that holds up the total budget.
I've got one question. I know I wasn't here at the last meeting, and I know that it was approved for a 3% cost of living raise for pretty much everybody, but about 15 people or so. Am I correct?
Yes.
And I think that Councilmember Jordan had asked, it was only about $60,000 difference. And, you know, I think that as a goodwill thing, that we need to include everybody in that 3% increase. I just think, and I understand the point behind it, I just think it's not fair not to include everybody, because they're the ones that have had our backs all this time. And I just think it's fair to go ahead and include them. It's only about $60,000. And I will make a motion if that's what I'm gonna make a motion.
As I understand it, when that motion came, and when Councilman Jordan suggested that, it would have been retroactive.
That was 1.5.
1.5, and then in July, depending upon what the budget was, another increase then, but, you know, it didn't carry.
No, my thing is to include them in the 3% cost of living, just like everybody else.
Well, I agree with that too, but.
Tell them when you second the motion.
No, they never said it.
Okay.
I have a motion to second. Any discussion?